Blues against the Hurricanes. 31 points to 16 seems like a pretty comfortable bloody win, doesn't it? But I think it was a wee bit closer than that. Hurricanes were actually in front at halftime. Blues pretty guilty of not converting some chances, but I guess it came right in the second half. Couple of kind of fortuitous tries. The Papali'i one and the Rico Ioane one were kind of a bit lucky. But as I said, as a Blues fan, I'll certainly take this all day long. It kind of dampened the spirits that 5 minutes after this game finished, the Prime Minister was on the news saying we're going into another 7-day lockdown. So that's unfortunate. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the games next week. I think the Blues are on the bye next week, so we are where the strictest lockdown is at. So we will not be playing anyway, but whether the other games can go ahead without fans, we'll wait and see. But anyway, for the game that actually happened, highlights are already up on YouTube, so you can go see them on the All Blacks channel if you want to watch them. But there are a few good ones. There were a few early tries. One's a Papali'i for the Blues, one to Almua for the Canes. I thought there was maybe a forward pass in the build-up to the Blues one, but it was a weird one because the Blues threw the forward pass anyway, but then threw it loose, and I think it was Flanders ended up getting it back on his own 22, and then he threw a loose pass, and then Papali'i was able to snatch onto it. So bit of a comedy of errors, but the Blues go up 7-0. We'll take that all the way to the bank. And then only like a minute or two later, Almua gets his try. That guy's got some proper power. He really put his head down. The TMO had a look at it because he was semi-tackled. He was brought to the ground, but not properly tackled. Nobody held him, so he was able to get back onto his feet and bust over for a try. So they missed the conversion, but yeah, 2 quick tries. Game off like a flash. Poor defense from the Blues for that try, to be fair, but Almua is a hard guy to stop. And then there was a whole heck of a lot of not much. I thought there was no real flow to the game. Nobody was really getting over 5 phases. There were knock-ons. There were penalties. It was a bit of a tough one for a certain stanza of the game anyway. Half an hour, the Blues win a penalty. They win another penalty. They get a scrum penalty. They put a kick through for Clark, but they ended up going back for another scrum. Eventually, Blackwell gets yellow carded. So the Blues are really turning the screws on the Canes. And they didn't want threes. The Blues wanted tries. And for some reason, once they finally got the yellow card, they managed to muck it up. They had a blindside move from a scrum. The scrum was dominant. It should have been going forward, especially with the Canes on a man down. They go blindside and Rico catches the ball static. He's not going anywhere. He gets driven backwards and eventually Savia wins a turnover. It's Julian. No, Artie. Artie's the loose forward. And it's pretty brutal. And eventually, the Hurricanes before halftime managed to kick 2 penalties. Jordy Barrett with some long-distance cannonballs. So it's the Canes who go in front, 11 points to 7 at halftime. But if you want to get what I mean about the first half maybe being a bit lackluster in some areas, remember it's 40 minutes. 40 minutes, and you've got 8 knock-ons, 5 to the Blues, 3 to the Canes. So that's a pretty high frequency. And you got 8 penalties conceded by the Canes, 7 by the Blues in one half. That's a lot. That's a lot of stoppages, man. 157 run meters to 163, pretty even. The Blues had more possession and territory in the mid-50s, but they were behind on the scoreboard. Second half, the Blues continue to be a bit lacking execution. Scrafton wins our line-out ball. Remember, he plays for the Hurricanes now, not the Blues. That's not a good thing, but he seems to roll his ankle, which is unfortunate for him. So another Blues attack goes by the wayside. And remember, the yellow card's already over for Blackwell, so yeah, the Blues didn't score any points in that one. Eventually, Akira gets them over the advantage line, and they put a cross kick through. I think it's Aotearoa Black puts the cross kick through for Caleb Clark. It's a bit of an ugly one, but he still manages to get it. It's not like one he catches on the full. But he's taken it. Good try from the Blues. And it's 11 points to 14. So the Blues back in front. Kharifa gets a yellow card for a cynical pull down of a maul. And he does concede too many penalties, Kharifa. So the Blues call for a scrum. And it actually pays off. They get a try through Perafeta on 53. So a kind of good bang-bang couple of tries for the Blues. And exerting that pressure during the yellow card. Unlike the first one where they couldn't capitalise. Good credit goes to Aotearoa Black as well because he He had the man outside him, which was Perifeta, and Geordie had two men to mark, so he went for the intercept, but Black just kind of faked him out and then gave it to Perifeta. So, yeah, really, really good, nice little hold-up from him. Made sure the Blues didn't mess up a chance. Artie gets held up, as Artie Xavier gets held up for a potential try. They go back for advantage. Blues get yellow card warning. Fortunately, maybe for the Blues, Almoa scores his second try of the game, which means the Blues don't have to go down the path of the yellow card because the Canes have converted. Back of a maul. That was a weird try from Almoa. The back of the maul, it seemed to splinter off, and then he was just on his own and just made a beeline for the try line, and no one was even near him. I think it was Ruru who was like the closest, and he's not going to stop Almoa from that distance. So, yeah, brace of tries for Almoa, but that's the last of the scoring for the Canes. Plummer misses a penalty shot for the Blues. I don't know why they bothered with that one. That was never going to go over. 72 Talea, who hadn't been that busy, had a really nice line break, one of the best of the game. And a few minutes later, the Blues managed to kick a penalty, 24-16. The game was probably over at that point because it was an 8-pointer. But the Blues put the final nail in the coffin through Rico. He gets a try on 76 minutes. He didn't. It was just from some loose balls. So again, I think it was Umanga Jensen was standing in an offside position. He made sure he didn't catch the ball, otherwise he would have been penalised. But then the loose ball bounces and Rico's able to get it and just hears down the wing. Riccatelli tries to chase him, but he's never going to catch him. He did force the ball in a way which was not going to be dropped like he did for the All Blacks, and then he did a wee bit of showboating with the way he folds his arms and looks at the crowd. So, yep, we don't usually do that kind of thing in New Zealand, but is the sport better or worse for it? I don't know. Run meters finished 295 to 471 to the Blues. Possession and territory are pretty even. The Canes tackle at 79%, which is pretty poor. Below 80 is getting poor. Blues are a bit better with 83%. Penalties conceded as 15 to 12. So it calmed down a wee bit in that second half, but it was still, still penalties there. The Blues lineup was a bit of a shocker. They missed 3, and a few of them were under quite a bit of pressure. Knock-ons finish 5 to 7. So again, calmed down a wee bit, but still too many there for the game. I thought the crowd was pretty poor, to be honest. Crowd was pretty average. Maybe it's just because that stadium's a big old round one with yellow seats, but the crowd looked pretty darn average. We'll see what happens next week if there's any crowds. Nah, there's not going to be crowds with the level 2 lockdown in the country, but yeah, get your bums to the stadiums, man. Blackwell had 4 penalties conceded, which is not a good look for him. Almoa, though, good news for the Canes. 58 run meters, 2 clean breaks, and 5 defenders beat. Remember, he's a hooker, not a winger. 2 pull-outs, had 10 from 10 tackles. Clark had 5 defenders beaten, 3 clean breaks, 70-odd run meters. So, yeah, there was a fair bit to not like about this game in terms of the execution and whatnot being poor, but there were still some good tries. Too many errors. I don't think either of these sides beats the Crusaders on current form. But anyway, we'll see how they go. We'll see what happens with the competition with the lockdown. Anyway, if you want to get yourself some Super Rugby gear, World Rugby Shop sells it, and they do 10% off if you use the code 2 cents. So happy days. I'll put that link in the description if you want to grab some gear. You might end up reenacting it in the front or backyard if the lockdown cancels the rugby. But anyway, we'll see. We've still got Super Rugby AU. We've still got Six Nations going on. There's plenty of rugby to be watching. Yeah, we've had 2 games of Super Rugby Aotearoa. Pretty decent ones so far. We'll see what happens. You guys take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later. If you guys are looking to get your hands on some rugby gear, be it club teams, premierships, Super Rugby, Pro 14, international teams, if you want some rugby gear, not just jerseys, but, jerseys is kind of my thing, head over to World Rugby Shop. I'll put a link to their store in the description. They've got heaps of stuff on sale. One of the best kind of collections you will see in any of the rugby jersey and rugby gear stores around. And a bonus thing about these guys, we have partnered up. So if you use the code 2 cents when you're at the checkout, you will get an additional 10% off your order as well. So yeah, man, World Rugby Shop, link in the description. Check it out, guys. Take care. Bye.